our brother, the President of International Leadership Foundation, Reverend Dr. Dela Adadevoh. Pamoja. Ja. You didn't get it right. When I say pa, you say ah. Mo, free. Ja, ka. Can we try it? Pa, mo, ja, pa, 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 mo, 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 ja, 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 Pamoja. Praise God. I am excited to be here, and I know my First Lady has been introduced already, but I'd like for her to stand again. Elizabeth, we know her as Betty. When I call her my First Lady, I don't have a second lady. What a wonderful opportunity to be here and to witness the continuation of the Pamoja vision. As we said in the beginning, the Pamoja vision is an African journey. We have started a journey, and there is no turning back. Amen? We are moving forward ever and backwards never with the vision of Pamoja. It is not a smooth journey. We have challenges on the way, but it's a journey we are committed to because we insist that in our lifetime, in our generation, there will be a new Africa. There will be new Africans. We insist on that. And by the grace of God, our perseverance will bear fruit. I'd like to spend a bit of time this morning just to help us recapture the vision and the journey of Pamoja. It is quite significant that we have Pamoja in Nigeria. It is not an accident. God has us here at this time. Because the idea of bringing students together, young professionals together, was actually pioneered by Nigeria in what we know as the Destiny Conferences. And I've attended some of the Destiny Conferences, and they have been an incredible blessing. It was the blessings of the Destiny Conferences that caused some of the staff in West Africa to ask for a West African version of Destiny. And that took place in Ghana. At that West Africa gathering, God showed up. There was so much excitement that the leader for West Africa at that time, Ben Eklu, and one of the speakers, who was the leader for Southern and Eastern Africa, Bekele Shanko, were so excited, they said, why don't we take this beyond West Africa and actually have a continental students' conference? So Destiny metamorphosed into what we now call Pamoja. The first one was held in Kenya in 2006. And that was a good start. There have been many, many blessings from Pamoja. But I'd like to share one selfish one. It may be of an encouragement to some of you, depending on where you are. My daughters were participants in Pamoja 1. It so happened that through the networking, my oldest daughter continued communication with a Pamoja gentleman participant. I have not finished the story. Your imaginations are going wild. Too far, too fast. This gentleman, PK, had a friend, Peter. And in my daughter Elinam's engagements with PK, she connected with a friend of PK who is Peter. And as will be expected, Peter got a little feverish. And he later on made his confession. And my daughter caught the fever. So on December 15th, 2012, they got married. Hey! Pamoja! So, if I'm supporting Pamoja, you understand now. The blessings are going round. This may be your time. Networking. So, Pamoja tastes very good. I know it from personal experience. But the vision of Pamoja went beyond the vision of the Destiny conferences. It was now looking at the African situation in a broader sense. The vision was shaped in response to the opportunities and challenges of the continent of Africa. We looked at the incredible natural blessings of the continent. We looked at the challenges that are facing the continent. We looked at the opportunities that are also facing the continent. And the Lord spoke to the pioneers of the vision. In our time, we should not be commentators on the challenges facing Africa. We should not be commentators of the opportunities facing Africa. We should not be spectators of the new unfolding history of Africa. We should rise up as a generation of change leaders for a new Africa. So we are moving from commentators and spectators to history shapers. So if you are here, tell your friend, I am a history shaper. Yes, that is what God has called us to. And we sincerely believe that the transformation of Africa is not only necessary, it is possible, and the time is now. The transformation of Africa is not only necessary, it is possible, and the time is now. Let's look at the some of the specifics in terms of the opportunities and the challenges facing the continent. First of all, we have the rich-poor paradox. Those who do the assessment on the natural wealth of the world conclude that the region, this huge second largest continent, Africa, has about 1/3 of the natural wealth of the whole world. 1/3. Whether you are talking of water or trees or gold or diamond or oil or coltan or bauxite or tea or coffee or cocoa or vanilla, Africa is featuring. Incredibly wealthy continent. We give Europeans their tea for breakfast, the Americans their coffee for breakfast, and we give them ice cream for dessert. We give the world chocolate for delight. We provide gold for the world. We provide diamond for the world. The world is now turning to us for oil. Europe is looking to Africa. By 2015, they want to erect solar panels in the northern region of Africa. And the solar panels that will be erected in North Africa will provide 15% of the energy need of Europe. 15%. Just from the solar power from North Africa. China is looking to Africa to provide 30% of its energy needs. Now, China is a huge consumer of energy. But from Africa, they are hoping to get 30% of their energy needs from the continent. The wealth of the continent is unimaginable. And so it becomes a question mark, which is the shape of Africa. It's a question mark if you want to draw Africa. Why should the richest region of the world be inhabited by the poorest people in the world? C'est la question. We are in Nigeria. The wealth of Nigeria has not been written in one textbook, all the wealth. Imagine 2.5 million barrels of oil a day. Can your mind imagine? 2.5 million barrels. Now, Ghana is all excited. We have oil in Ghana. Our target is a humble 120,000 barrels a day. 120,000 barrels. For Nigeria, 2.5 million minimum, 4 million maximum potential every day. When you come to Nigeria, you should come to paradise. We are not talking of cocoa. We are not talking of the minerals in the ground because we've not bothered to research all of them yet. There is a lot of undiscovered wealth in this country. It is an economic powerhouse of the world. And yet, in this country, we burn the natural gas from the oil. And now with the West Africa gas pipeline, that is being changed. Here you will find petrol queues. Why will you find petrol queues here when the oil is flowing from here to the rest of the world? The question mark of Africa. South Sudan is a new nation. The potential is incredible. everyone got excited when they got their independence, and we celebrate with them. With all the knowledge and all the wealth of history, it is not an easy start. There has been a lot of looting of the natural resources, oil in particular, already. Recently, the leadership of the country asked other leaders who had stolen some money and said, if you bring the money back, we will not hold you responsible. We just need some of the money back. And the amount of money that was returned as a result of the request from the president was over $600 million. Which means that the money that has been looted is in the billions of dollars. And when you go to the country, we don't have the road infrastructure, the bank infrastructure, the financial institutions, and all of the educational institutions that need to really be established to build the country. So why will the few citizens who have the privilege be looting such a poor country in terms of realized wealth? We can speak of Equatorial Guinea, that makes billions of dollars a year from their oil revenues. And with a population of 500,000, everybody should have a lot of money, a lot of wealth every day. But it is not the case. At the same time, Equatorial Guinea presents an offer for an annual award of $5 million for a unit of the United Nations. Why wouldn't that money be used to build a national university instead of just impressing the world that we can donate something for an annual award? So when you look at that situation, you quickly understand that the richest region of the world is inhabited by the poorest people because of bad leadership. Leaders who are not putting the interests of the ordinary citizen ahead of their own personal interests. It is also because our economies, excuse me to say, are still primitive economies. Because our wealth, our economies are based on the sale of unprocessed raw materials. That's what I call primitive economies. We get oil, refining it into secondary products that will bring an industrial revolution. No, we instead send the crude oil away. We have gold. Instead of refining the gold, we sell the gold dust, semi-processed for further processing. And then we buy the secondary products from countries that do not have gold. And they make sure that the cost of the secondary products cover what they paid for the raw materials. So we are making others wealthy when our resources are not leading to our own wealth. I will take the chance to tell you about my own country, Ghana. In 1482, the first trading post with Europe was established in Elmina, And the Portuguese called that city Elmina, which simply means the mine. Because when they come to that place, it's a gold field. You don't need to dig far to get gold. 1482 to 1582, we sold gold, not processed. 1582 to 1682, we sold gold without refining the gold into secondary products. 1682 to 1782, we sold gold, not refined, into secondary products. 1782 to 1882, we continue selling gold, not refined, into secondary products. 1882 to 1982, we sold gold, not refined, into secondary products. 500 years of selling unprocessed gold to the rest of the world is what makes it possible that Ghana will only realize less than 20% of the potential of their gold wealth. Why should the second largest producer of gold, after over 500 years of exporting gold, not have a gold refinery? Why? Sudan recently realized they cannot fully depend on oil because of the tensions with South Sudan. To provide a quick alternative, we have the good news that Sudan has built the second largest gold refinery in Africa. So Ghana is still on the primitive economy side, and Sudan has moved to a developing economy. Are you getting the picture? To encourage us, we also have the good news of Botswana. They have diamonds, and they have diamond refinery. And they are doing business, and you can see the diamond wealth when you drive on the roads in Botswana. So we have some success stories here and there. But by and large, apart from leadership, the other reason why the richest region of the world is inhabited by the poorest people in the world is because the economic infrastructure is primitive. When people come into your country to dig and mine for your raw materials, it is not an investment. Are you listening? It is not an investment when somebody is mining your diamond and gold. That is what you are made to believe. It is an investment when you are building industries that are using your own raw materials to meet the needs of your people. And we are yet to experience an industrial revolution. And that is precisely what we need. So when we come together in the spirit and the vision of Pamoja, we are basically saying, we are appealing to you, this generation of young leaders. Please change Africa. Change Africa. The second subject, when we are looking at the details of the opportunities and challenges on the continent, is the disconnect between Christianity as we understand and practice it today and social issues. We have a version of Christianity that almost exclusively focuses on the spiritual. and does not address issues that affect other dimensions of life, the social dimension of life, the intellectual dimension of life, the material dimension of life, and the emotional dimension of life. But if we properly understand the good news of Christ, the good news of Christ affects all aspects of human life and human situation. When I was a student, around the ages of most of you, which will have been in the 70s, we even had discussions. Should a Christian be a politician? Can a Christian be a lawyer? Can a Christian be a successful business person? Because our minds were telling us that the safest way to practice Christianity is to stay disconnected from these dangerous spheres of human life and existence. But when we look at what we have in the scriptures, we have examples of people who applied their faith to leadership, to governance, to development for their nations. When you read about Nehemiah going back to rebuild the walls of Jerusalem, don't just read a spiritualized version of the history. Nehemiah definitely went to rebuild the walls of Jerusalem for the people of Israel, the chosen people of God. But what you should also know from that is that Nehemiah is modeling for us patriotism. How we should be restless when our own nations, inhabited by our own brothers and sisters, are visited by shame, dishonor, and humiliation. He models for us someone who says, I could be in the palace, in the court of the king, and live a comfortable life. But if my people are experiencing humiliation, if my nation is experiencing shame and dehumanization, I need to sacrifice and go back and rebuild my nation. So in that story, we have a modeling of what a citizen of God's kingdom does for his country. The Lord tells us that He's called us to be the light of the world. He's called us to be the salt of the world. We are to show the world what good leadership is. We are to show the world what good government is. We are to show the world what good stewardship is. We are to show the world what good development is. Why? Because we have the manual for life, for leadership, for governance, and for development. And that manual is called the Bible. The one who designed the universe and created it and created planet Earth gave us a manual. And that manual must be taken to the White House. It must be taken to Aso Rock. It must be taken to the castle in Accra. It must be taken to Delhi. It must be taken to Saudi Arabia. and our message is simple. You can try whatever you want to try, but this manual is from the author of your nation. If you want to run the affairs of your nation based on the original manual, this is it. This is part of our Christian witness, to challenge the leaders of the time to turn to the wisdom of God for good leadership and for good governance. Christians, therefore, cannot disengage themselves to live a safe life for the sake of going to heaven without injuries. Christians are supposed to take their faith, their belief, their Bible, filled with the Holy Spirit, to all the different spheres of society, to the educational sector, to the business sector, to the family, to the religious sector, to every sphere of society. We are supposed to be sent to make a difference in every field. We all understand what it means to be called by God into ministry. At the time that I was graduating from university, that was 1979, my understanding of calling into ministry was calling into full-time Christian work. And when I met anyone who was on fire for the Lord, I said, "What are you doing going to work as an engineer? Why don't you come and serve the Lord full-time since you are zealous for God?" And so that was our rallying cry. We were calling everyone, come and serve the Lord full-time. If you are not a pastor, you have to join the Great Commission movement or join another ministry of the kind. So when somebody says, "I've been called of the Lord," and we said hallelujah, it was because that person is saying, "I've been called of God into full-time Christian work." Over the years, by the grace of God, I've had a broadened understanding of calling. Now I know there cannot be any Christian follower of Christ who is not living a life in response to the calling of God. You cannot be a doctor unless God calls you to become a doctor. You cannot be an engineer unless God calls you to be an engineer. You cannot be a lawyer unless God calls you to be a lawyer. And when God calls you to be a lawyer, God calls you to be a Christian lawyer with a difference, a Christian engineer with a difference, a Christian business person with a difference, a Christian president with a difference. So all of us must be called. And whichever calling, whether we are using our vocations as a platform or we've left down our nets and we are following the Lord, every calling is from heaven and is respected. It's all high calling. It's all high calling. And so therefore, those of you who will be in the professional track will be addressing the issue. What does it mean for me to be an engineer missionary, a lawyer missionary, a doctor missionary, a government missionary? Because all of us are missionaries. The third issue I want to address is the promotion of shortcuts to prosperity in Christian discipleship today. It is a very common practice now to encourage Christians at large campaigns, at large church gatherings, to just take a step of faith or to just come for a prayer or for a meeting and be ushered into a new era of prosperity. I believe in miracles. I believe in the supernatural workings of God. But I also believe that God does not work his miracles to cover our irresponsibilities. God does not work his miracles to cover our irresponsibilities. I also believe that the natural laws that govern the physical world are divinely instituted by God. And godly people are people who respect these natural laws. What do I mean by that? If you want to develop, if you want to prosper, pray, but also work with good ethics. Wealth is built by diligence, by hard work, by perseverance, by good leadership decisions, by good stewardship over a period of time. And when we are calling the church for shortcuts towards development, we are actually promoting irresponsibility in society. We are basically telling people you don't have to go the long, rough, and hard road. You can have a shortcut, a man of God prays for you, and boom, everything changes around you. As a result, we have people who are chasing wealth who do not have the skills to manage the wealth if they should get it. I am calling through Pamoja 3, I am calling on national leaders, leaders of denominations, leaders of churches, to teach biblical ethics, biblical principles for good leadership and good stewardship towards godly development, and to bring an end to the shortcut approach, which is only promoting irresponsibility and prolonging our arrest in the vicious cycle of unending poverty. Four, and finally, the issue of the threat to the advance of Christianity on the continent. Over the past few decades, Africa has seen an unbelievable explosion of Christianity. At the beginning of the 20th century, there were less than 10 million Christians, known Christians on the continent. By the end of the century, 48% of Africans claim to be Christians. That's over 400 million Africans. So from less than 10 million to over 400 million in 1 century. Praise God again for that. But as we all know, this advance is being threatened today by the southward move of the major religion from the north. And if nothing is done, the advance of Christianity could be halted. And there are many things that are going on around us to challenge the safe practice of the Christian faith and the growth of the Christian faith. Whether it's intimidation, military action, destabilization, the use of money to influence people, marriage into the Christian society, the different strategies that are being used. But our commitment as a Pamoja group is that the cause of Christ will advance on this continent, and this continent will not go in the other direction. And our commitment is only over our dead bodies can this happen. So you say to your friend, over my dead body. For as long as we have breath, we are going to make sure that the gospel goes into the Sahara Belt and goes into North Africa, goes to Europe, and to the rest of the world. And so our vision is simple. In 2 words, go north. Go north. Go north. And go north. That's our vision. We are going north with the love of Christ. We are going north with a message of the gospel. And there is no turning back. we are moving forward together is forward ever and backwards never. To sum it up, therefore, we can say that the Pamoja vision is to raise a new breed of leaders for building a new and transforming Africa based on Christ-centered values. That's our vision. A new breed of leaders, a new and transforming Africa based on Christ-centered values. The mission objectives: 1, raise Christian leaders who connect their faith to address positively the issues facing the continent. 2, go north with the good news of Christ. Help make Africa a missionary force for world evangelization. 3, build leaders who will add value to Africa's God-given resources for the development of the continent. And then 4, promote godly and ethical principles for work and leadership to ensure sound and lasting development. Give Me Africa is such a smart theme for Pamoja 3. In Psalm 2, verse 8, the Father asked the Son, that's Jesus Christ. God asked Jesus Christ, ask of me, and I will make the nations your inheritance. And in response to that, Jesus is saying to the Father, give me Africa. So Jesus is praying, give me Africa. And the Father turns to us and says, because the Son is saying, give me Africa, you, the people of Pamoja, do your part in giving Africa to the Son. And we have joined the Son of God in praying to God, God, give us Africa in our generation or we die.
ከማንም ጋር አላወዳድርም ከማንም ጋር እኩያ አላረግህም ከማንም ጋር አላወዳድርም ከማንም ጋር እኩያ አላረግህም